remember at this race, 8 people are allowed across the line to service the motor vehicle.
Here comes Ellery now. He's peeled off.
6 people in a normal championship round.
This is bang on target too, according to our PitSmart estimations.
Straighten her up the pit, Steve, so she's nice and straight.
98 laps in the bank. Ian Walburn talking to Steve.
Walburn is good value on the radio.
Isn't he great?
I like
So
Wal on the
dry.
radio. Yeah.
No matter what's going on out there, he just talks in this very flat monotone, doesn't get the driver excited. Luke Eildon now will jump in for probably the most important racing stint of his life so far. He has really got to get his head down in this battle with Murphy and all those fast cars around.
It's okay, guys, just tape it the best you can.
Let's go to the pits.
Yeah, the team here, actually, the car's already been taped up quite a fair bit in the front, as you can see. Stephen was a little slow to get out of the car. He couldn't get his belts undone, but other than that, everything's gone to plan. Fuel's still going in the car. No adjustment to the rear of that car this time around. Pretty good stuff.
Watch your speed, mate, watch your speed.
30-second stop.
Pump your brakes, want to see your brakes pumping, thank you.
Probably a few seconds shy
Reset fuel.
where they want to
Reset fuel,
be.
working, reset fuel.
Still getting in. Fraction over 30 seconds keeps them in the game.
There's plenty to do, isn't there, when you jump in, fast yourself in. You've got additional cable ties on the belt, so you can grab the loops in the hurry that you find yourself in and just give the belts a yank, pump the pedal, get the pressure back up. We saw at Sandown quite graphically 3 or 4 drivers going off. The most notable was Russell Ingall when the pads didn't get a pump up. Radisic out, Rydell in, and sometimes when you get in, you also find yourself in an uncomfortable position. How shall I describe this here with the crutch strap? Just in the way that you have to leap into the car sometimes. You don't have time to fuss around like you do on a private test day. You just got to leap in and buckle up, and sometimes it'll take laps. And there are other times where you don't even get settled for the entire 30-odd lap stint, where you're just uncomfortable with the way the belts are grabbing you. It's bad luck. You just got to get on with it. And I can tell you there are some occasions where that can be quite uncomfortable if you get them adrift.
Know where you're coming from, brother. 9.1 seconds. Here comes the Pertec Ford peeling off now. All these guys are on schedule for their next fuel load. There'll be one more to come after this one. And it's just going to come down to such a battle of car speed toward the end of this race. The strategies are working out the same. It's going to be one on pure speed.
Talk about car speed. Well, Greg Murphy, as he ticks over on his 100th lap, just put down a 2:09.97.
These guys are right up the end of the pit lane this year. First time they've been that far west in the pit lane. Normally they're right down the other end. And Darrell's down there on the spot.
Yes, the team comes in. Cromley, the taxi car's got a little dent in the front bonnet here, nothing major, so there's been a bit of a tap at some time in that last stint as Winterbottom gets out, Noski gets in. Everything pretty good. Good stop.
Excellent stint from Mark Winterbottom.
Optimax fuel still going in that tank. That's the longest part of the stop.
Big scar on the right-hand side there, Darrell, from where he hit the fence earlier in the day.
It's got to be said, both drivers here, Mark Rossi and Mark Winterbottom, have done a terrific job.
And to steer around the Tratt car now, Andrew Jones getting in, John Cleland getting out.
Plenty of activity in pit lane. This is coming up to this important pit window for fuel.
The reason that the Stone brothers went that far up the pit lane is it's flatter up there. This area of the pit lane's got a slope on it. It slopes backwards, and there's less congestion for the pit in and pit out because there's so many teams up this end, nose to tail. And it's very critical sometimes if you can save half a second or a second in terms of your in-out time up the other end of the pit lane.
You've got to think about all those things, don't you? You're planning for this race.
Well, Greg Murphy remains in control. The man who set this place alight yesterday with a blistering pole lap continues to take the Kmart Commodore out on some hot laps. We've got some strong winds blowing in, some nasty looking clouds. Will it make an impact on the weather?
And this is what you have to do. SMS the word play, 18811075 for Australian viewers only. And so far on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that is the number of Ford and Holden fans who've dialed in. This is a critical moment as the race leader is in the pits.
A driver change for Greg Murphy and pad stop as well. Murphy out. Rick Kelly in.
Just saw that Stone Brothers Ford in there. Apparently that's the Winterbottom car, car 9.
Incidentally, both Ingall and Scaife have just done their fastest laps on lap 100.
Can you hear me?
Rusty.
This looks like being a good stop, guys. Very tricky working conditions when they do those brake pad changes. You can hear Rob Crawford talking to Rick Kelly there. I mean, the pads themselves get up around 800 degrees, the main disc about 700, and the caliper about 210 degrees. So a very difficult working environment for the engineers during a stop like that.
That was very, very slick work too. So, team.
In at lap 101, they've done 36 laps on that most recent load of fuel, keeping in mind there was a safety car intervention between lap 65 and 68. They have got reasonable fuel economy. Seems as though they're getting, I would suggest, at least 33 green laps out of a... Green laps meaning full tilt laps out of 120 litres of fuel, which means that they should be able to stay in sequence and find themselves in a good position at the end of the race, but it'll be marginal. They can't afford to burn up too much. Daryl?
Okay.
Daryl, you
Mark,
there?
you've had a pretty good run so far today. What did the car come in again?
It looked like we just filled it up with water, but the car was running smooth and had some good speed. So, yeah, it's a bit annoying that happened, but we'll soldier on, and it's a long way. It's just over halfway, so really I've learnt that this is a long race, and we'll keep going.
Were the temperatures and everything okay while you were in the car, though?
Yeah, they were. I didn't get a warning light or anything, so it's a bit weird, but as soon as he went back out, he got a warning light, so I'm not sure what happened, but hopefully it's all right. We'll get to the end.
All the best for the rest of the day.
Thanks, Darren. Cheers.
Brad Jones takes the position on the track at the exit of Forest Elbow, and Neil mentioned that Scaife had done his fastest lap on lap 100. That's the fastest lap of the race at 2:09.107.
And further lowers the lap record here to that 9.1. So
You have to bring it back in, mate. Bring it.
you can't log a lap record in anything other than the race in Australian motorsport, so qualifying records don't count.
That's
Back it right off.
Campbell Little. He's talking to Mark Noske at the wheel of car 9, and I think the message was the engine has had it. You're going to have to bring it back in. And there's been wisps of smoke coming from that car. Look at this, trailing it all the way in through pit lane. This could be terminal for car 9.
It had a whack in the front, so I wonder if that impacted any airflow or did any radiator damage. Or
Straight through, you turn left at the end, you know where the...
Straight through and turn left at the end. They're putting it behind the wall. So she's over for the second of the Stone Brothers Fords. Well, running as high as third in that battle. Superb job by Winterbottom and Noske. An engine failure is going to put them out of the race.
We're heading down to payday here, aren't we? It gets interesting from here on, and this is where I reckon the race gets juicy up here.
Well, this is where it's won and lost, isn't it? This is the real grind. You get past lap 100, and that's when the real cream starts to rise to the surface.
The field thins out, and typically there are fewer incidents later in the day. Greg?
Well, John Cleland, as far as stints go, that was a tough one. Tell us why.
Yeah, when I got in the car, the throttle had been sticking with Andrew, and a couple of turns it would stick on. Turn 1, turn 2, and occasionally down at the last turn here, it just stick wide open. And as I was coming out of the cutting at one point, just over the bump, the throttle stuck completely and spun me around. But we only grazed the wall, so a little bit of polish, it'll be fine.
It just seems as though it's something that you're going to have to persist with for the rest of the day. The team didn't seem as though they were addressing it.
No, I talked to them on the radio and said that if it's going to take too long to cure, it could really be anything. It could be one of the springs broken, and to take all the top off and start to delve inside there, we could lose a lap. What we'll have to do, mind you, we could lose a body shell if the thing sticks open at one of the worst corners. So we just have to be careful. We've told Andrew that. He's just going to have to come off the throttle a wee bit earlier.
Oh, you look like you're earning your coin today.
Yeah, I know. Whatever Kim Jones is paying me, it's not enough.
And he must have scratched his nose when he hit the wall up there in the cutting. A little Band-Aid on there.
Running out of Band-Aids at Aussie Mail.
Fitness device, they call it.
Mark Scaife is our race leader. Russell Ingall is second position on the track. Craig Lowndes is third, and Scaife has just lowered the lap record even more at 2:09.09.
Wow. That's fast pace for lap 104 of 161.
And he needs to do one of those shoey type stints and make ground here, because it's the 51 car that's got great pace.
Probably 2 more laps, mate.
And they're all a bit out of sequence. So he knows that he's got to try and make a net gain on that car.
Now this is our PlayStation 2 race score. Remember, just as Neil said, there's a few guys out of sequence, in particular Greg Murphy and Rick Kelly's car number 51 entry won't appear on this leaderboard, but on corrected times via our PitSmart technology, we can tell you that Murphy and Kelly would have the race lead. The Bob J T-Marts 1000 is coming down the crutch.
The number 1 Holden Racing Team Commodore comes into the pits. Mark Scaife hands over to Todd Kelly. Feels in, wheels on. And that will leave Craig Lowndes in the race lead as the toddler makes his way out. And I say that because into the pits now is Russell Ingall handing over to Marcus Ambrose. Your race duration on the top left-hand corner of your screen. We're 106 laps down of 161, and rain is southeast of here, about 40 kilometres away, and being pushed along by a 6-knot breeze. I can tell you, anything is possible.
Interesting looking at those last fuel takes for both the Holden Racing Team Commodores. They both did 30 laps.
The brake, Marcus, pump the brake.
In that last stint. Both pitted on lap 76, both pitted on lap 106.
Pump the brake, mate. Keep pumping it. Use your left foot. Pump, pump, pump.
Don't want to repeat the nasty Russell Ingall incident at Sandown, where he didn't have the brake pedal pumped up enough. So the
have you
message is...
reset the fuel, Marcus? Just make sure that bias is right and the bars are okay.
That preceding car 34 has just lowered the lap record. Garth Tander 8.6. He's out of the race in terms of real position, but boy, he's flying.
2:08.67 on his 90th lap.
What a shame.
Yeah.
They lost all that time in the pits early on because that car was flying, and there's the speed this late in the race. Set a new lap record in the 8s.
If there'll be a bit of a period here where there's some warmth in the road, but the sun goes behind the cloud, and if you're on a low fuel load, you'll see some pretty sexy numbers. So I suspect it might even shuffle further down again.
Cameron McConville is doing something of a Garth Tander and rejoining the race. Teamed up with Tim Lay. Well and truly out of the loop, and as Grant said to him, time to go out and have a bit of fun around the mountain.
That's Tim in the car.
And here's 66, the Dean Canto Matthew White entry for Team Better Electrical. These guys making their 4th stop, so this will be a driver change. Canto's in there at the moment.
Lowndes is due in any tick of the clock as well.
Mighty good play, and there is a black cloud coming over the top of the mountain.
Live weather from Craig Lowndes.
That's interesting. Holden Racing Team fuel mileage, 30 laps. Green conditions.
Oil going into that car.
Rusty.
Well, guys, just having a little bit of a think about this. During that Kmart pit stop before, you may have noticed that they changed the front brake pads, and that may have bamboozled some of us. They have definitely, I've confirmed it, definitely changed front brake pads twice in that car. Now, that may suggest a different type of pad material in that car, perhaps one that has a little bit more bite but would wear a little faster. And I went to Rob Crawford with that suggestion. All I got in return was a nice wide smile between underneath all that fireproof gear.
Yeah, well, obviously...
Surge there, Surge, coming out on that road.
he needs to get the reserve on if it's got one, which I think he's now
mate,
done.
Don't worry. Come in. Absolutely come in, yes.
Yeah, do I come in? I would have thought so.
This is Craig Lowndes, who is leading the race at the moment.
Out of the chase now.
Corrected, we reckon that he's got a real position at the moment. He's 5th. And we're hearing that there could be some issues with car 51 as well. They're talking about... Look at the way CL just shortcuts that chicane. They're talking about recycling pumps and switching things on and off in the 51 car for Rick Kelly. We might see if we